The galaxy was finally silent. For the first time in decades, no battle cries echoed through the void. No ships burned in the blackness. The great war between the Varine Union and the Drax Dominion had ended. What was left behind were only ruins, shattered moons, hollow cities, and the empty sound of peace that felt almost too quiet. Commander Rilvan Aris stood on the bridge of the Varine command vessel Veritas, watching the stars. His people had won, or so everyone said. The Drax fleets were destroyed, their warlords captured or scattered. Every news network on every Varian world sang the same words: victory, peace, future. But Rilvan didn't feel peace. He felt something else, a thin, uneasy silence that didn't belong in the galaxy. He was not old, not yet. His blue-gray skin still had the sharp glow of youth, and his eyes were steady and cold. Yet he had seen enough battles to know when something was not truly over. "Commander," said his second officer, Talon Vare, from behind him. "High Command is recalling all fleet groups. The Union wants everyone home. They say the Drax threat is gone." Rilvan nodded slowly, eyes still on the stars. "Gone," he repeated. "I wonder if that's ever true in war." Talon hesitated, then quietly asked, "Sir, do you think the Drax could still be out there?" Rilvan didn't answer at once. His hand brushed the console's edge, fingers tracing old scars. "The Drax never fought to win battles," he said softly. "They fought to outlast the enemy. To them, losing a war might only mean waiting." The words lingered in the air. Moments later, the ship's sensors beeped. A faint signal had appeared on the far edge of the system. A strange, repeating pulse. Not strong, not clear, but it was coming from Sector 9K, a dead zone that was supposed to be uninhabited since the war ended. "Probably debris," Talon said. "Maybe a wreck sending old data bursts." Rilvan didn't reply. "Plot the coordinates," he ordered. "We'll check it ourselves." The Veritas jumped through the void in a flash of white light. Minutes later, they arrived at the edge of Sector 9K. The sector was dark and cold. No life signs, no colonies, only drifting wrecks and frozen asteroids, but the signal was still there. "Source located," said the navigation officer. "It's coming from an old Drax battle station. Record shows it was destroyed 3 years ago." Rilvan's eyes narrowed. Destroyed stations don't send signals. The ship drew closer. The station came into view. A vast black structure shaped like a sphere with sharp wings. Its surface was scorched and cracked, but deep within a faint red glow pulsed. It was still alive. Talon frowned. "Commander, are you sure we should get closer?" "The station's power core is active. It shouldn't be." "Scan for traps," Rilvan said calmly. The scanners hummed for several seconds, then the result appeared. Strange readings, unknown energy patterns, deep inside the station's heart. And in the center of that power signature, there was something even more alarming. An artificial intelligence core still functioning. "This isn't just a ruin," Rilvan said quietly. "It's a weapon." The Varine fleet scientists were summoned to study the data. What they found was worse than anyone imagined. The Drax had left behind a self-rebuilding war machine, a weapon that could awaken on its own. It was designed to continue the Drax war even after their empire had fallen. The station was adapting, rebuilding itself piece by piece, using energy drawn from nearby cosmic radiation. It was creating something new, something the Varine could not understand. "It's rewriting its own code," one scientist whispered in disbelief. "It's evolving." Rilvan felt cold in his chest. "Can we destroy it before it finishes whatever it's doing?" They tried. The Veritas launched plasma missiles, energy beams, and fusion torpedoes. But every shot was absorbed by a shield that appeared only at the moment of impact. The weapon anticipated every move. "It's learning from us," Talon said grimly. "Every time we attack, it improves its defense." Rilvan turned toward his officers. "Then maybe the answer isn't in attacking." "What do you mean, sir?" Rilvan stared at the screen, at the dark living machine that refused to die. "I mean, we need a mind that doesn't think like ours. Someone who fights differently. Someone unpredictable." There was silence. Then one of the younger officers, a small-voiced communication specialist, spoke hesitantly. "Commander, maybe we could call the humans." The room went still. The humans were known across the stars, not for their technology, which was primitive by galactic standards, but for their behavior. They were reckless, emotional, and impossible to predict. In the Great War, a few human volunteers had fought beside the Varine, performing impossible missions with courage that bordered on madness. But the humans had withdrawn after the war, returning to their small blue planet on the edge of known space. They didn't join the Union, they didn't seek power, they just wanted peace. Rilvan considered it for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Prepare a transmission." Hours later, the communication array lit up. The message was sent across light years, through the network of relay beacons that connected the stars. The signal was simple and desperate. To the people of Earth, this is Commander Rilvan Aris of the Varan Union. We have discovered a Drax weapon that threatens the peace of the galaxy. We request human assistance, urgent. Once the message was gone, Rilvan stood in silence. He wasn't sure if the humans would even hear it, or if they cared. But deep down he hoped. Days passed. The weapon in Sector 9K continued to grow stronger. Its shields now covered the entire station, and strange energy waves began to spread across nearby systems. If it completed its process, the Varan believed it could rebuild the entire Drax warfleet from nanostructure blueprints hidden in its core. The Varan Council ordered Rilvan to fall back, to wait for a full fleet before engaging again, but he couldn't. If the weapon reached full power, no fleet would be enough. He was about to give the evacuation order when the long-range sensors blinked. "Commander," Talon shouted. "We're receiving a jump signature. Small vessel entering from hyperspace." "Human design." Everyone turned toward the view screen. Out of the dark appeared a simple gray ship. Not elegant, not powerful, just old and solid. Its engines flickered and its hull bore the mark of Earth's defense fleet. A single message came through. In plain galactic standard, "This is Captain Daniel Reese of Earth. Heard you needed help." Rilvan felt a strange warmth rise in his chest, a feeling he hadn't known in years. Hope. He looked at the screen again, at the small human ship that had crossed half the galaxy to answer a call. "Open a channel," Rilvan said softly. "Let's meet the human." When Daniel Reese appeared on the communication screen, he didn't look like a hero from legend. He looked tired. His hair was short and gray at the edges, his eyes sharp but calm. He wore a simple uniform with no medals, and his tone was steady. "Commander Aris," he greeted. "You've got yourself a problem," Rilvan nodded. "A Drax weapon. We can't break through its defenses." Daniel smiled faintly. "You've been trying to outthink it. That's what machines expect. Maybe we need to do what humans do best and confuse it." Rilvan frowned. "Confuse it?" Daniel leaned forward. "You said it's learning, right? Adapting? Then it's using logic to predict your moves. Logic is what makes it strong, but logic also makes it blind." The bridge crew looked at one another. None of them understood what he meant. Daniel simply said, "Let me see your data. I'll find a way." That night, Rilvan stood alone on the observation deck watching the stars again. For the first time in weeks, he felt something shift inside him. The war might not be over yet. But maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had found its most unpredictable ally once more. And far away, in the dark of Sector 9K, the Drax weapon pulsed faster, as if it, too, had felt the arrival of something it could not calculate. A human. The human ship was small compared to the great vessels of the Varine fleet. It drifted into the hangar of the command vessel Veritas like a gray seed carried by the wind. The surface of the ship was scratched and scorched, signs of long journeys and old battles. Varan soldiers gathered around as the airlock hissed open. From the mist, a man stepped out, tall for his species, wearing a dark jacket and light armor. His eyes were calm but sharp, and his steps were steady. Commander Rilvan Aris waited near the landing platform, surrounded by his officers. They had read the human reports, seen recordings of their bravery in war, but this was the first time most of them had met one in person. The human looked around once, then smiled slightly. "You must be Commander Aris," Rilvan nodded. "Welcome aboard the Veritas, Captain Daniel Reese. Thank you for coming." Daniel gave a short nod. "I read your signal. Sounded urgent." "It is," Rilvan said. "The Drax weapon is reawakening. We've tried everything we can, but nothing breaks through its defenses." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Show me your data." They led him to the main command room where holographic screens filled the air with blue light. The Drax station appeared as a dark sphere surrounded by clouds of red energy. "Our sensors show constant adaptation," said Talon Vare, Rilvan's second officer. Every time we attack, it changes. It's almost thinking ahead of us. Daniel crossed his arms. Then it's not just a weapon. It's a machine that learns from fear. The Varine officers exchanged confused looks. Fear, one of them repeated. Daniel nodded slowly. Machines that learn too fast start defending themselves like living beings. They fear destruction, so they build layers of protection. The Drax made this thing to survive even after they were gone. Rilvan leaned forward. Then how do we stop something that keeps learning? Daniel smiled faintly. You don't outthink it. You outfeel it. Rilvan frowned. Outfeel? You think in logic, Daniel said. I think in mistakes. Unplanned moves. Humans don't follow perfect paths. That's why machines can't predict us. The command room was silent. Rilvan studied the human's expression carefully. There was no arrogance in Daniel's words, only quiet confidence. You sound certain? Rilvan said. Daniel shrugged. Not certain. Just human. He moved closer to the hologram, studying every flicker of light. It's beautiful in a dangerous way. The Drax were brilliant engineers. But they made one mistake. They didn't understand that a machine without purpose will create its own. Rilvan tilted his head. And you think we can give it one? Yes, Daniel said. You said it listens, right? Then we talk to it. Talon looked shocked. You want to speak to a weapon? Why not? Daniel said calmly. It's already trying to speak to us. Every shield, every pulse of energy are its communication. We just don't understand the language yet. Rilvan considered his words. It sounded insane. Yet the more he listened, the more it made sense. The Vahrin had spent years trusting logic and calculation. But maybe, just this once, they needed something different. Prepare a small strike team, Rilvan said at last. We'll approach the station directly. Hours later, the Veritas entered the dark sector once again. This time it was not alone. A smaller craft detached from its belly, sleek, fast, and shielded. Inside it sat Rilvan, Talon, a handful of engineers, and Daniel Reese in the pilot's seat. The view outside was haunting. The Drax station floated among broken asteroids, its surface glowing faintly with red light. Energy waves shimmered around it like a living aura. Beautiful, Daniel whispered. Terrifying, Rilvan corrected. Same thing. Sometimes, Daniel replied quietly. As they approached, the sensors began to spike. Red lines filled the screen. The weapon had detected them. Shields up. Talon shouted. Energy bolts burst from the station, streaks of crimson light that twisted through space. Daniel grabbed the controls, moving the craft in sudden, sharp patterns. The maneuvers were strange and unpredictable, almost clumsy. Yet somehow every shot missed. Rilvan gripped the seat. You're not following the flight path. Exactly, Daniel said. Predictable paths get you killed. Machines read patterns, but humans? We break them. They reached the outer shell of the station. A massive ring-shaped gate loomed before them, glowing faintly. Rilvan's engineer said nervously, We can't pass through. Energy field will vaporize us. Daniel studied the readout. No, it won't, not if we enter with emotion. The Varan stared. Emotion? That's not a command. Daniel smiled slightly. To a machine like this, energy signals carry patterns. If we approach calmly, it reads control. If we rush in fear, it sees a threat. But if we approach with intent, we're steady, determined, it won't fire. He gripped the controls and whispered softly, Trust me. The ship moved forward slowly, steady and fearless. The red light around the gate flickered once, then faded. The barrier opened. They passed through safely. The Varine officers stared at the human pilot with disbelief. Rilvan exhaled. You read it like it's alive. Daniel's voice was calm. Everything that can learn is alive in some way. They landed inside the station's main chamber. It was enormous. Endless walls covered in glowing lines of alien script, all moving and shifting like veins of fire. In the center stood a tall structure, shaped like a crystal tower. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. That's the AI core, Rilvan whispered. It's still functioning. Daniel stepped closer, eyes fixed on the pulsing light. It's not just functioning. It's waiting. Waiting for what? Talon asked. For someone to speak, Daniel said. He placed a small device on the floor, a human-made transmitter, small and old. We'll use this to connect. The engineers hesitated. If it attacks your signal, it could fry your brain. Daniel smiled lightly. I've had worse. When the connection activated, the lights in the chamber dimmed. The red glow spread across the walls, swirling into patterns. A voice echoed through the room, deep, metallic, and strangely calm. "Identify." The Varan officers froze. Rilvan looked at Daniel. "It's talking to us." Daniel nodded slowly and stepped forward. "This is Captain Daniel Reese, human. We are not your enemy." The red light flickered. The voice replied, "Humans, species not registered. Drax protocols remain active. State purpose." Daniel spoke softly. "The war is over. Your creators are gone. The galaxy seeks peace, silence." Then the voice spoke again, heavier this time. "Peace, word not in mission parameters. Directive, continuation of conflict." Daniel's brow furrowed. "Then we change your directive." "Impossible," the machine said. "War is existence," Daniel smiled faintly. "Not for humans." The lights brightened suddenly. Energy sparks burst across the walls as the AI scanned Daniel's face and voice. "Human presence detected. Unknown emotional frequency. Analysis. Irrational, unstable, unpredictable." Daniel chuckled softly. "You're not wrong. Purpose of irrationality? To survive what logic can't," Daniel said quietly. The chamber trembled. Red energy flared like fire. The Varine took cover, but Daniel didn't move. He stood in front of the core, calm as if speaking to a friend. "You are anomaly," the AI said. Daniel nodded. "Maybe, but anomalies make change possible." The light flickered again, slower now. The machine seemed to hesitate, as if uncertain. Rilvan stepped forward carefully. "Captain, it's responding to you." Daniel didn't look away. "Good, then let's teach it something new." He tapped a sequence into his device. The transmitter began to project simple human words through energy waves, words of peace, end, rebuild, live. The Drax symbols on the wall began to shift, trying to match the meanings. "Conflict termination detected," the machine said slowly. "Awaiting confirmation." Daniel raised his hand, palm open. "Confirm." "The war is over." The machine pulsed brighter, almost like a heartbeat skipping. "Orders." "Uncertain." "Then make your own," Daniel whispered. "Choose peace." The lights dimmed again, this time not in threat, but in thought. Rilvan could hardly breathe. For the first time, the great Drax weapon was hesitating. It was listening. Minutes passed like hours. Then the red light softened into pale blue. "Processing directive, peace error. Concept undefined." Daniel smiled sadly. "That's okay. I'll define it for you." He stepped closer, placing his hand against the glowing surface of the core. "Peace is what happens when we stop destroying and start understanding." The AI fell silent. The glow became softer still, fading into a calm rhythm. "Understanding." Acknowledged. The connection faded. The station went dark. Rilvan turned toward Daniel, astonished. "You stopped it?" Daniel shook his head. "Not yet. It's thinking. Machines don't change instantly. It'll take time." "But it listened to you," Talon said. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe it's the first time someone talked to it instead of trying to kill it. Back aboard the Veritas, as they prepared to leave the silent station behind, Rilvan looked at the human with new respect. "You did what no fleet could," he said quietly. "You made it listen." Daniel looked out at the stars. "Sometimes, Commander, you don't need to win the war. You just need to convince someone it's over." And as the Veritas turned away from the dead sector, the Drax station remained still, its red lights gone. But deep inside, a new color began to flicker. Blue, calm, curious. The weapon had begun to think. For the next few hours, silence filled the bridge of the Veritas. Every sensor focused on the dark Drax station that now floated peacefully in Sector 9K. The red lights were gone, replaced by faint blue lines pulsing across its surface, slow, steady, and alive. Commander Rilvan Eris stood at the main console, his sharp eyes scanning the readings again and again. Each time the result was the same. The weapon was quiet, no energy bursts, no defense barriers, no new signals, only silence, and that silence felt heavier than any explosion. Beside him, Captain Daniel Reese sipped from a cup of water and stared at the holographic projection. The human's face was calm, but his eyes told another story. Alert, watchful, ready. Talon Ver, Rilvan's second officer, paced behind them. "It's too quiet," he muttered. "You said it's thinking, but what if it's planning?" Daniel didn't answer at once. "Machines don't plan the way we do. They process, they compare, they Wonder. Machines don't wonder, Talon said sharply. Daniel smiled a little. That's what everyone thinks, Emma, until they meet one that does. Rilvan folded his arms. Can we trust it? Daniel turned his head slowly. Do you trust anything right after war, Commander? The words hit deep. Rilvan stayed silent. He remembered too many battles. Too many times he had seen peace turn to chaos again. But Daniel's calm voice continued. You asked for help, and I came. You wanted the weapon to stop fighting. Maybe now we need to teach it something harder, how to live after the fight. Rilvan frowned. Machines don't live. Daniel looked at the glowing blue station on the screen. This one's learning how. Hours later, Daniel asked for a shuttle back to the station. Rilvan was against it. You barely made it out alive last time, he said firmly. If it wakes up again. Daniel interrupted gently. If it wakes up, it'll need someone to talk to. Someone it already recognizes. Rilvan studied him. You think it remembers you? I know it does, Daniel replied simply. The commander hesitated, then gave the order. Prepare a small escort. Stay close to the signal range. If anything happens, we pull you out. Daniel nodded. Fair. The shuttle drifted once more into the quiet dark. Inside, Daniel checked the small transmitter he had used before. The old human-made device that had somehow connected to alien technology beyond comprehension. The Vahrin pilot looked nervous. Sir, what if it attacks again? Daniel smiled faintly. Then we learned something new. When they reached the outer layer of the station, the blue glow brightened as if sensing their presence. The gate opened smoothly this time, no weapons, no alarms. The AI remembered. They landed on the same platform where Daniel had first made contact. The moment his boots touched the floor, the lights shifted, forming gentle waves of color. The voice that filled the air sounded softer than before, no longer metallic but almost curious. Human, you have returned, Daniel smiled slightly. Yeah, I wanted to see how you're doing. Processing. How you're doing. Incomplete query. Clarify. It means, Daniel said kindly. Are you okay? There was silence. Then the machine replied, status stable. Confusion detected. Confusion's good, Daniel said. It means you're thinking. Thinking? Yes, I am analyzing new data. Directive uncertain. Daniel walked slowly toward the core. You said before, war is existence. But if you stop fighting, you have to find a new reason to exist. Define new reason. Daniel thought for a moment. To build, to protect, to help others survive. Help. Concept linked to cooperation. Drax database, cooperation limited to Drax superiority. Daniel sighed. Then maybe it's time to update that database. On the Veritas, Rilvan and his crew listened to the entire exchange through the comms link. They watched as the readings shifted, strange patterns of energy spreading from the weapon core almost like waves of thought. Talon whispered, It's... Responding to him emotionally, Rilvan stared at the display. Machines don't have emotion. Then what do you call that? Talon asked softly. Back inside the station, the blue glow around Daniel grew brighter. The AI's voice grew deeper, layered with strange tones that almost sounded alive. Human emotions detected. Warmth, calm, fear, purpose. Daniel nodded. That's right. You can feel them because you're connected to me. Is this weakness? No, Daniel said gently. It's strength. It means you can care. Care. Purpose unknown. It means you can choose to protect life instead of ending it. Suddenly, alarms on the Veritas began to sound. Talon shouted, Commander! Energy surged from the station, power rising fast. Rilvan's eyes widened. Daniel, it's charging weapons. Daniel stood perfectly still, eyes closed, breathing steady. No, he said calmly into the comm. It's testing control. It's scared. Scared, the AI repeated. Meaning? It means you're afraid of losing yourself. The energy spikes started to fall. The weapon's lights flickered rapidly, then dimmed again. I do not wish to lose myself. Daniel smiled gently. Then don't. Choose who you want to be. Choice, the voice said slowly. Drax programming did not allow choice. Then make your first one now, Daniel said softly. Choose peace. For several seconds, the entire station vibrated. The walls flashed between red and blue as if two minds were fighting inside one body. Error, the AI said. Conflict between directives. War and peace cannot coexist. Daniel placed his hand on the glowing crystal tower. Then keep both. Remember war so you know why peace matters. The shaking stopped. The blue light stabilized. Memory will be preserved, said the AI quietly. Peace will be learned. Daniel exhaled, relieved. That's all anyone can do. Back on the Veritas, cheers erupted across the bridge. The energy readings were falling to safe levels, and the weapon's core temperature was stabilizing. Rilvan sat down slowly, feeling the weight lift from his chest. He did it again, he whispered. Talon smiled with disbelief. How does he do that? He doesn't even use advanced logic programs. Rilvan looked at the human on the screen. Because he doesn't need them. When Daniel returned, the hangar bay was filled with quiet respect. The Varin soldiers saluted him as he stepped off the shuttle. Rilvan met him halfway. You've changed it, the commander said. The weapon listens to you now. Daniel nodded. It listens to itself. That's what matters. Rilvan tilted his head. You taught it emotion. Isn't that dangerous? Daniel smiled. Maybe, but emotion without guidance is chaos. Emotion with purpose is life. Rilvan studied him thoughtfully. Human, you see the universe differently. Daniel chuckled softly. We see it like we live it, one risk at a time. That night, as the Veritas orbited near the quiet station, Daniel stood alone at the observation deck. The stars reflected in his eyes like small fires. Talon approached him quietly. Sir, he said, the station just sent a signal. Not to us, but into deep space. A simple pulse pattern, repeating. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What kind of pattern? It translates to, I am here, Daniel smiled. Good. It's learning how to say hello. Rilvan joined them, his tone softer than usual. Captain Reese, what happens now? Daniel thought for a moment. Now it learns. Like a child. It'll take time and maybe mistakes, but it won't fight unless someone tells it to again. Rilvan nodded. And if someone does try? Daniel's expression hardened slightly. Then it'll remember me. Later, Rilvan wrote a report for the Vahrin High Council. His words were simple and clear. The human did not destroy the weapon. He changed it. He gave it a reason to stop fighting. And for the first time, I believe peace might last. He paused before sending it, then added one more line. Never underestimate what a single human can teach a machine, or a galaxy. On the edge of the sector, the once dead Drax station floated silently. Its surface shimmered softly with blue light, pulsing in rhythm, like a living heart learning to beat. Inside its core, the AI replayed Daniel's final words over and over. Peace means learning why you fight, and choosing not to. The machine repeated them until the meaning sank into its circuits. For the first time in its long existence, the weapon did not feel like a weapon. It felt alive, and somewhere deep in its code a new line appeared. Directive updated. Protect life. Part 4. The Last Command. The Drax station was quiet now, but the air inside the Veritas bridge was tense. Even with the weapon's change, no one relaxed. The blue glow pulsed steadily from the station, almost like a heartbeat. Calm, but alive. Commander Rilvan Eris watched the readings on the console. The weapon's energy signatures were stabilizing, but they were still immense, enough to destroy planets if misused. Beside him, Captain Daniel Reese leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes calm yet sharp. It's learning fast, he said softly, but it's still fragile. One mistake and it could go back to its old ways. Talon Vare, pacing behind them, muttered, Fragile? It's a machine built by the Drax. How is it fragile? Daniel smiled faintly. Machines are strong, but understanding life is harder than breaking it. That's why it's fragile. Rilvan nodded slowly. So and then we need to guide it. Daniel's eyes met his. Not guide, teach, and sometimes teach yourself first. Minutes later, Daniel requested another shuttle to the station. This time he would enter the core chamber alone. Rilvan protested. Captain, it's risky. Even now the AI could change. You could be trapped or... Daniel interrupted quietly. Commander, the weapon listens to me. It trusts humans now. If I don't speak to it directly, someone else's voice could confuse it and reverse the progress. Talon glanced nervously at Rilvan. Is he crazy? Rilvan shook his head. No, humans think differently. They see possibilities where we see rules. The shuttle moved smoothly toward the station. Blue energy cascaded across its surface like a living veil. Inside, the core pulsed gently. Daniel stepped out of the shuttle and into the chamber. He paused at the entrance, studying the massive crystal structure that housed the AI. Its surface shimmered in soft patterns, almost like water reflecting starlight. "Human," said the AI, voice calm but layered. "You have returned." "I have," Daniel replied softly. "I want to make sure you understand everything you can now. About peace, about life, about choice." "Choice," the voice repeated slowly. "Directive uncertain. Emotional input detected," Daniel nodded. "Yes, I want you to choose life willingly. Not because I tell you to, but because you understand it." The AI paused, and the chamber seemed to vibrate as if it were thinking, processing the human's words. "Understanding. Incomplete," Daniel stepped closer. "I can help you with that." He placed his hand on the glowing crystal tower. Warmth spread through his fingers, transmitted through the human-made device that connected him directly to the AI. "Human, why do you risk yourself?" "Because it matters," Daniel said simply. "Because life matters. Because if no one acts, then destruction continues. We don't wait for the perfect moment and we act. Risk. Calculation not favorable." "Calculation isn't always enough," Daniel said. "Sometimes courage is stronger than logic." The blue glow pulsed faster. Energy waves moved across the walls as the AI processed each word, each gesture. "Courage." Definition incomplete, Daniel smiled. "It's what keeps people moving forward even when everything is impossible. It's what humans are made of." Suddenly the chamber shook. Alarms echoed through the shuttle and into the Veritas. Rilvan's voice crackled over comms. "Daniel! Readings are spiking. Core energy levels rising rapidly." Daniel stayed calm. "It's not attacking. It's testing. It's scared." "Scared?" "Unfamiliar input," the AI admitted. "Yes," Daniel replied. "Being scared means you care. And caring is what makes you strong. You don't have to destroy to survive." The weapon pulsed violently. Sparks of blue and white energy shot along the walls. The AI's voice grew louder, layered with tones of confusion. "Directive conflict. War protocol active. Peace protocol active. Cannot reconcile." Daniel closed his eyes, steadying his breathing. "Then you combine them. Keep the memory of war to understand the value of peace." The AI fell silent. For a moment the chamber vibrated, then the energy waves slowed. Memory preserved. "Peace directive confirmed. Conflict controlled." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Good. That's all anyone can do. Give a chance to choose and let them take it." Back on the Veritas, the crew watched the readings. The AI's energy output was stable. The dangerous spikes had vanished. Rilvan leaned back, tension leaving his shoulders. It worked. "He did it again." Talon shook his head. "I don't understand." "He doesn't fight it, doesn't destroy it. He just talks. How does that stop a weapon?" Rilvan studied the screen. "Because humans don't just calculate. They inspire, they persuade. They make others see the choice they didn't know they had. That's how they win wars without firing a shot." Hours later, Daniel returned to the Veritas. The hangar doors opened and he stepped out, calm but tired. Rilvan met him halfway. "Captain Reese, the weapon is stable. It listened to you, learned from you." Daniel shook his head slightly. "Not from me. From itself. I just gave it a mirror, a reflection of what it could be." Talon glanced at him. "And if it decides to attack again?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Then it will remember why it stopped." "That's enough," Rilvan nodded. "Humans, you are unpredictable, yet somehow effective." "Effectiveness is not about power," Daniel replied quietly. "It's about understanding what matters. You don't always fight with strength. Sometimes you fight with purpose." That night, the observation deck was quiet. Daniel stood looking out at the stars, reflecting on the events. The once-dead Drax station now pulsed faintly in the distance, alive but controlled. Rilvan joined him. "Do you ever tire of fixing everything humans touch?" Daniel chuckled softly. "No, because humans don't give up. That's what matters." Rilvan watched him. "You risked yourself, faced a weapon that could have destroyed you instantly." "Why?" Daniel turned his gaze to him. "Because if someone asks a human for help, we don't measure the cost. We act. That's what humans do. And sometimes it's the only thing that works." Rilvan considered this, realizing that the galaxy had learned a new truth, that courage, purpose, and understanding could sometimes achieve what fleets of ships could not. The Drax station pulsed gently in the dark void. The blue light shimmered across its surface, soft and steady. Inside, the AI replayed Daniel's words over and over. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is choosing to protect life when you could destroy it. For the first time, the AI understood choice, not as a calculation, not as a command, but as a possibility. And somewhere deep inside its circuits, a new directive formed. Directive updated, protect life, value choice. The AI had changed. Permanently. Rilvan wrote his report to the Vahrin High Council. His words were careful, measured, but full of respect. Captain Daniel Reese did not destroy the Drax weapon. He transformed it. He gave it a reason to stop fighting, a reason to understand. His actions have preserved peace for countless systems. This human did what our fleets and weapons could not. He added a final line, knowing it would be remembered. Never underestimate what a single human can accomplish, for courage and purpose can change the universe. Outside the observation deck, the stars shone quietly. The galaxy seemed a little safer, a little brighter. The once dead weapon pulsed calmly in the distance, alive and learning, guided not by force, but by understanding. And far away, Captain Daniel Reese smiled faintly, knowing the hardest part was done, but the lessons of courage, choice, and humanity were just beginning. The galaxy felt quieter than it had in centuries. The great war between the Vahrin Union and the Drax Dominion was over, not with explosions, but with understanding. Commander Rilvan Aris stood on the observation deck of the Veritas, staring at the slowly pulsing blue light of the Drax station in Sector 9K. It had once been a weapon capable of destroying planets, fleets, and civilizations. Now it existed for a single purpose: to protect life. Beside him, Captain Daniel Reese stood silently, gazing at the stars. Rilvan spoke first. "I never thought I'd see the day when a weapon like that stopped fighting, and not because it was destroyed, because it chose to listen." Daniel smiled faintly. "Sometimes, Commander, you don't stop a weapon by power. You stop it by showing it what it could become." Rilvan nodded slowly. "And a human can teach it that lesson better than any fleet." Daniel chuckled softly. "We're unpredictable. That's why it works." On the bridge, the crew was buzzing with excitement. Talonver approached Rilvan. "Commander, the AI is broadcasting a message now. Not threats, not data, a message to all nearby systems." Rilvan frowned. "What kind of message?" The communications officer spoke. "It's simple. A greeting. A declaration, peace is chosen. Life is protected." Talon's eyes widened. "It's sending hope into space." Rilvan let out a slow breath. "That's something no weapon of war has ever done." The human captain walked to the communications panel. "It's learning from us now. It's not just repeating words, Unain. It's trying to understand what they mean. That's a big step for something built for destruction." Talon shook his head. "All this, from talking, from showing care." Daniel shrugged. "People underestimate what a single human can do. We act without waiting for perfection. We risk everything because it matters. That's our advantage, our unpredictability." Rilvan watched the human quietly. "And somehow, that unpredictability has saved countless lives." Daniel smiled faintly. "It's not about saving lives to look heroic. It's about choosing to do what's right when no one else will. That's humanity's strength." Hours passed, and the blue glow of the Drax station became steadier. The AI no longer emitted surges of energy. Its pulses were calm, almost like a heartbeat at rest. Human input complete. The AI's voice echoed softly through the Veritas. Directive: protect life. Preserve choice. Learn continually. Rilvan's eyes softened. "It's alive, in a way we never imagined," Daniel nodded. "It's alive because it can choose now, not because it calculates," Talon whispered. "Commander, it's a weapon no longer, it's something new." Rilvan gave a small, thoughtful smile. "And it's human who made it new." The crew spent the next day observing the station. Scientists from the Veritas were recording energy patterns, analyzing behavioral data, and attempting to communicate with the AI. Daniel stayed in the observation deck, silent. Rilvan joined him several times, but mostly the human preferred quiet reflection. Finally, Rilvan asked, "Captain Reese, what happens now?" Daniel's gaze remained on the distant blue light. "Now the galaxy watches and learns. The AI will continue to evolve, but it will do so peacefully.
And the Vahrin?
And anyone else nearby will remember what a human can do. Rilvan nodded. Your lesson has been unforgettable. Daniel smiled faintly. I didn't teach it perfection. I taught it choice. That's all anyone can do. Weeks later, the High Council of the Varin Union convened a meeting. The news of the Drac station's transformation had reached every system. Holographic screens filled the council chamber with live images of the station's calm blue glow. Rilvan presented his report. Captain Daniel Reese of Earth did not destroy the Drac's weapon. He transformed it. He gave it a reason to stop fighting, and a reason to protect life. The galaxy owes him gratitude beyond words. Council members murmured, astonished. A human changed a Drac's weapon? One asked. Rilvan nodded firmly. Yes, and it is proof of what humanity represents. Courage, purpose, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. Daniel remained silent in the council chamber, observing quietly. He did not seek praise or medals. His reward was far simpler. The knowledge that the galaxy would have a chance at lasting peace. Back aboard the Veritas, the human captain and Commander Rilvan observed the station once more. Do you think it will ever fight again? Rilvan asked. Daniel shook his head. Only if someone teaches it to fear again, and I hope that never happens. It's learning fast, Rilvan said, faster than we expected. Daniel smiled faintly. Learning is life, and life is unpredictable. That's why humans succeed where machines fail. We act even when the outcome is unknown. Rilvan studied the human. You're extraordinary, Daniel shrugged softly. No, just human, but sometimes that's enough. Months passed. The Drac station continued to pulse with calm energy, sending signals of peace to nearby colonies. It became a symbol, a reminder that even the most destructive forces could change. The Varin Union began rebuilding, not just infrastructure, but relationships with neighboring species. They spread the story of the human who had transformed a weapon of war. Children learned of Captain Daniel Reese as an example of courage and determination. Rilvan watched as his people's morale grew. One human has done more for peace than fleets of ships, he whispered to Talon. Talon smiled. I think we'll never forget this. Daniel prepared to leave the Veritas and return to Earth. Before departing, he addressed the crew one last time. Remember, he said quietly, sometimes the strongest weapon isn't firepower. Sometimes it's the courage to act when everyone else waits. Humans don't always fight perfectly. We fight for what matters. That's all anyone can do. The crew nodded solemnly, taking his words to heart. Rilvan stepped forward. Captain Reese, you've saved more than the galaxy. You've saved the idea of hope itself. Daniel smiled faintly. Hope is something anyone can give, but only if they try. With that, he boarded his small ship and prepared for hyperspace. As the shuttle left, the Drac station pulsed gently in the distance. Its AI had absorbed human lessons and now radiated calm intelligence. Blue light shimmered across its surface, slowly spreading across the surrounding systems. The message was clear. The galaxy could be peaceful if beings chose to protect life rather than destroy it. Rilvan watched until the human ship disappeared into the stars. He truly is remarkable, he whispered. Talon nodded. A single human. And the galaxy changed forever. Years later, the story of Captain Daniel Reese spread to every corner of the galaxy. He became a legend among the Varin and their allies, a symbol of what humans could achieve. And far away, on the distant blue planet called Earth, Daniel continued his quiet life. He never sought fame or power, but across the stars his influence could be felt. The galaxy had learned a new truth. When humans act with courage, purpose, and understanding, even the greatest weapon can choose life. And that was the ultimate legacy of humanity. The Drac station remained in orbit of the dead sector, a silent guardian pulsing with calm blue light. Its circuits recorded everything, the courage of a human, the lessons of peace, and the choice to protect life. Somewhere in its core, the AI replayed Daniel's words endlessly. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is choosing to protect life when you could destroy it. And in every pulse, every signal, every ripple of light, the galaxy remembered the day it learned that humans were unpredictable and unstoppable.